This was the example we did in the last video where we created a class called heart rate, had its few variable, a constructor having this parameter, get a setter for all the variables, max heart rate, min heart rate, max target heart rate. These are the functions, calculate age, and one more class DOB, date of birth, to have separate variables for day, month and year, a parameterized constructor, and a function which will return a boolean if the date is correct or not. So there's a condition that if the date, month and year lies in a valid range, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. And we have an object of DOB in heart rate named as date of patient. So this we made in the previous lecture, and in main class we simply created two objects and then printed the variable. Now what if we have to create multiple objects of this heart rate class? We can use arrays. So how to define array? So we will not be using this now. Let us create array of heart rate. To create array of heart rate, we use the square bracket and then use new operator to create the array, new heart rate, and in the square bracket we define the size, like how many objects of heart rate you want to store. Suppose I am doing 3. Okay, so let us take a loop in which we'll take the values for 3 objects. Here let us ask from user what are the values he want to store. So for that we need a scanner object. Let us include this file. So java.util.scanner has been imported. Now we'll ask the user the name, scan it in a variable called n. We can define string every time or we can define a string outside this. So we will be requiring 3 objects. One will be of date of birth, one will be string for name, and then one will be for last name. Name and L name. So name is equals to s dot next. Similarly, we'll have L name is equals to L dot next. Let us write system dot out dot print, and we want enter date of birth. Here we need to store 3 variables and then we'll create a date of birth object. So you need 3 integers first for date, month and year. So I'm taking d is equals to s dot next int, and then m, and similarly for y. So it will store 3 variables, one for date, month and year. Now we need to create that in the object date DOB object. So DOB is equals to D, which is an object of date of birth, is equals to new DOB, and will pass these variable as parameter D, M and Y. Sorry, we have created two D's here. So let us write DB for date of birth. Date, month and year, we have passed three variables, and now we'll create the object of heart rate and we'll store this in the array. So to store array, first object will be stored at HI. I will be 0, 1, 2. So this loop will run 3 times. 3 objects will be created and they will be stored at H0, H1 and H2. So at each we need to create a new heart rate object, new heart rate, and we'll have to pass 3 parameters. First will be the first name, we have stored that in the name variable. Next will be last name, we have stored that in L name, and for date of birth object we have DB. Okay, so this is how L name, N should be small. So these 3 things that we have asked from the user will be passed and HI will be initiated. We will initialize the object. So this is the loop. This loop will run 3 times. This loop run 3 times and will create 3 heart rate object. Okay, they will be stored at H0, 1, 2. And now to print again, we need to have a loop. So after printing this statement, because we want these tags to be printed once, first name, last name, this, and then again a loop which runs 3 times, and we need to print this statement. And instead of H, we'll write, here our object is H and then array index. So HI dot fname. So we have done this example where we created single object. You can find the link to that video here above. Okay, so now when we run this code, so it will ask me name. Suppose I have entered Ram, date of birth, and then another name, and then again date of birth and year, one more name, this will be first name, this will be last name, and a date of birth. So first name, last name, these are the, okay, so it is slightly shifted. This is the age column, 21, 20 and 10, and max heart rate is this, and this is the target heart rate. Okay, so there are slight changes in the display, but otherwise you can create the array of any number of size. You can take 5 or 10 objects, and this is how you take user from the input from the user and then print that.